not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. It's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Good morning, everyone. Blake Sloan here. Welcome to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Brand new show this week. I was out of the studio last weekend. I was actually at a mastermind with a lot of top realtors from across the country. All flew in to meet and talk about what the heck is going on out there, what's happening in the market, and just give insight on hey, what's happening with your area, what's happening with your teams and your companies. And so helped us really kind of game plan, because there's some massive changes right now happening in the real estate market, not just locally, but across the entire country. And we'll talk about some of that today. And we'll just talk about a lot of different things. Exciting show. We'll talk about the micro market numbers. We haven't been able to do that last month. Usually we do those last week, but obviously last week I wasn't here. And so we'll talk about what's happening in your zip code, what's going on in each and every area of Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand area. We also just kind of talk about what's happening nationally. Some big time news came out in the last couple of weeks with some big time headlines that are saying, quote, September home sales dropped to the lowest level since the foreclosure crisis. Another one talks about lowest sales since 2008. Some alarming news on Fox Business. We'll talk about that and kind of seeing some alarms go off a little bit in terms of what's happening as rates have climbed up. We just hit another 20-plus year high with the rates over 8%. Thankfully, on today's show, they came back down a little bit last night, which is great news for us. We'll talk about that. Like I mentioned before, our investment fund we have has been rock and roll. We bought another property this past week, a condo in Myrtle's Inlet, purchased it cash as is, super simple. The seller wanted to buy something in Florida. We offered them an upfront fair price. No, they basically didn't change, fix anything. We're going to go in, paint it, repair it, update it for them and for us, and then put that back on the market. But we're looking to buy anything out there, instant cash offer. It's fair. Unlike a lot of these so-called investors out there who were wholesalers, a lot of those wholesalers, what they do is they lock your property up at a low price, then try to flip that to somebody else. And if they can't find another buyer, they just leave you hanging. And with us, we don't do that. We close on every single one. Very, very fair prices, because obviously we have a brand name, we're licensed, but looking to buy anything out there, single families, commercial buildings, commercial properties, land, houses, condos, self-storage, whatever you have out there, bring that to us. We can get you instant cash offer. You can always go to blakestone.com. There's an instant offer option right there. You can get instant home evaluation. We spend thousands and thousands of dollars a month on that tool. It's one of the most amazing software tools we've used. It'll give you your own little dashboard for your property to keep you updated. It's super, super cool there as well. We do the same thing we do every week on this show. Is just we have one main goal. We do it almost 15 years now. Is to keep you updated on anything and everything real estate related here in Myrtle Beach and nationally, because most people, real estate's our largest asset, right? And so we want to help you make better decisions, important to you, and just help keep you updated with what's going on number-wise, market-wise, and so you can kind of predict and make good decisions. If you ever want to come back and watch these shows, we stream them online. Just go to YouTube. You type in Blake Sloan Radio Show. It's on there. We stream them on Facebook. You can type in Blake Sloan. Just follow me if you want. You can follow Sloan Realty Group if you want to on LinkedIn. Anywhere there, just type in Blake Sloan Radio Show and be able to come back, listen to those, share those. And like I said, the same goal we have every week is keep you updated so you make better decisions with your real estate. Yes, and that's just the whole, why behind the show is just help make better decisions, like I mentioned. And we see so many horror stories time and time again, even this week, right? After doing the show for so long. And so I just really want to have just one thing to help you understand that the biggest mistakes that anyone makes out there when it comes to real estate and their largest assets, aka selling their house, aka buying their house or any type of property they have, the biggest mistake they make is thinking that all real estate agents are the same, and it could not be any further from the truth, right? People spend 20, 30 years building this hard-earned equity, paying payment after payment from their hard-earned earnings to build the equity, pay interest over the years, and they spend 15 minutes picking an agent. And so what's happening is this market has shifted. You can no longer get away with that with just any old agent. And they don't realize there's such a big difference because it's a service-based industry, and the service-based industry is tied to your largest asset. So it's like you ever go to a restaurant,
you have a terrible experience, that's because of the person handling it, right? The people either in the back or people in the front of the house is what kind of determines that experience. But here you're dealing with the same type of thing with people for your largest asset, just like any doctor, any lawyer. If you're charged with a crime you didn't commit, the last thing I want is some part-time attorney who only tries a few cases a year. But for some reason, people go with a friend of a friend or the realtor recommended or cheapest realtor that they can find to really handle their largest asset. And it doesn't make any sense at all. And so what's happening is, what people understand that the single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller comes down to one thing only. And that thing is the agent that you choose, period, right? Not the wall color, not the grass quality, not the time of year you sell, not what, what's in the house. It comes down to the agent you have and specifically how they execute from A to Z. And so what you find is a lot of people don't realize when you're selling a property is 118 variables that we talked about. And if the biggest ones that are really mishandled are anything from, does the agent answer the telephone? Do they respond to web leads, web inquiries online? How long does it take them to respond if they do respond? What's the quality of photos? What's the order of the photos? What's the pricing strategy? What's the negotiation strategy? The fact is, like I mentioned, the average agent in our marketplace sells 4 homes per year. That's declining now as the market has shifted. But historically, the average agent sells about 4.3 houses per year in our MLS. You take the amount of sales divided by the amount of agents is 4.3 sales per agent. There's not a whole lot of money to eat with, right? Much less spending marketing. And so what's happening is most agents simply do the 3 Ps. They promise you the world to get the listing. They tell you they're number 1, they're the best. Anything, everything to make you feel comfortable. The number 2, they put it into MLS. And 3, they sit back and pray that someone else brings a buyer. Meanwhile, they're down the street trying to get the next listing because they're just trying to survive in the business. And that's unfortunately how the business has always worked. I grew up in the business, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma, entire family. And I saw that when I got in real estate in 2005. And I said, look, there's got to be a better way. I studied business management in college at Coastal Carolina where I played football. And I said, there's got to be a better way, and sought out different mentors and spent lots and lots of money on consultants and mentors and coaches. And we said, hey, how do you take what people do outside of real estate in traditional businesses and bring that same predictability into real estate with systems and processes and people? And that's exactly what we did, right? We created this thing called the Guaranteed Sold System. It's the only proven system, sells twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well, right? Those variables are managed by 2 main things. Number 1, technology. We spent multiple 6 figures in technology to make sure we can manage those variables proactively. Well, the same thing happens the same way every single time predictably, and we can control those dominoes, right? Where most agents are out there just winging it, trying to smash the alligator. Remember that game back in the arcade? You just smashed the alligator that came out, right? Here, we're predictably knowing what's coming next and using technology and people to make sure we manage those. And our team of people is a team of specialists where each person specializes in what they do. So they're very, very good at it. They're niched down and they make sure they know what nuances and problems to see around the corner to make sure you're protected with your largest asset. And that can be anything from, we have an inside sales team, meaning they take any new inquiry. The phone gets answered all day, every day, right? Well, I'm recording this right now. If someone calls our for sale sign, guess what? We have someone on inside sales who's our VIP concierge who answers that telephone to make sure that gets answered and that buyer inquiry doesn't get lost in your property. We have outside sales team, 25 plus agents on our buyer's agent team. They're out there all day making 16,000 phone calls a week to bring buyers into our listings to make sure we create leverage for our clients and get their property sold for the most amount of money. We have full-time photographer, videographer, a listing coordinator, closing coordinators, all these things to make sure that every single detail gets handled correctly and proactively, and it does not slip through the cracks. And that's what you want when you're dealing with your largest asset, especially when we'll talk about this on today's show. Properties aren't selling near as fast or at all right now because the buyer demand has fallen off a cliff. 20% plus just in the past few weeks and new properties going under contract. And I was laughing about this earlier. It's like, man, people were picking real estate agents. If you think about it, in 2020 and 2021, they were picking agents who are just dancing online on TikTok. That's the criteria they use, is like, who was online dancing? Oh, they look pretty cool. I'm gonna list my house with them. And they actually got it sold because the market was so hot. It's in a frenzy. Now you need somebody who's a true expert, who has the marketing, who has the global reach. And thankfully, I'm excited about this market, even though it's a little more difficult, because this is what we are built for. I started my company in 2008. We grew through that. A lot of the agents got out the business. I was looking at some data this morning. 100,000 real estate agents have gotten out the business so far this year across the country. You're going to see that continue to happen because when the average agent sells 4 homes a year, they can barely survive before, much less spend marketing on your behalf. And what's happening is you cut that out. They have to move to the next opportunity, so to speak. for them in that scenario. And so we'll say that to say this, that if you're thinking about selling right now, that piece of information is more important than ever, that the single most important variable that determines your failure or success is coming down to who you pick as a real estate agent, how they handle the execution. And I just want to share that. It's like, look, when you think about it, don't just go with the quickest one your friend or friend recommended. Don't go with somebody who's a relative who just got in, or the cheapest one. Like, you want to say, hey, look, what's the best value for me? Who can execute at the highest level for my largest asset? And here's the other part of it. Not only is it a large high ticket item, it's a long sales cycle. And so there's so many nuances that need to be handled to make sure you can navigate and get to the closing table successfully. I just watched a video before the show, just to get the data on it, but 56,000 deals fell through last month. Buyers getting cold feet, rates going up, issue. That's across the country. 56,000. So those are sellers who are buying something else or selling and trying to move somewhere else. And all of a sudden they get to the closing table, and guess what? That buyer's no longer buying. It puts them in a very, very difficult bind. And they're going to go back and offer more seller concessions, reduce the price. There's all these things that happen that most of the time that can be overcome on the front end if the agent knows what to do and knows what to look out for. And so I share that to make sure, if you listen to this show, at least reach out to us if you're thinking about selling and say, hey, look, what do you do? What makes you different? And anytime we sit down and show somebody, it absolutely blows their mind. The main piece of that is that guaranteed sold system. And they have the same thing for buyers called the unfair advantage home buying system. You use priority access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, as well as the home inspection to get you to that closing table successfully. And the most important part, and you'll see this online, if you ever check out our reviews, you have like 835 5-star reviews on Google. We want to be your real estate resource for life. And so we're here to serve you with our vendors. We get calls all the time, like, who's the best painter? Who's the best plumber? Who should I get to do my yard? And we do that. And so we have so much volume, selling 800 plus houses a year. We're able to make sure we use that leverage to, number one, know it's a quality vendor who can get the service done correctly, but they also give our clients discounts. And so if you ever need anything like that, you can always reach out to us. We're here to serve the community, blakesloan.com or 843-808-SOLD. We're always there to answer that phone. We'll take a quick break, right back in a second with a market update.
Market is constantly changing. Now, here to give us more insight into this is my friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. I know certain programs make it a lot easier for the seller. Which ones do you offer? Hey, Sean, in addition to our traditional program that sells your home for top dollar, we have an instant offer, a multi-offer, and a guarantee offer program. I represent a large investment fund with millions of dollars who are looking to buy homes in the Grand Strand right now. And what kind of return can you expect from them? Here's what I'll say. Every seller's needs are different. Some need maximum convenience, and we deliver that every single time. Some need the most amount of money, and we have a program for that as well. We have a trademark program that nets sellers up to 5 to 10% more money than traditional industry methods. All right, great insight, and thank you for this update. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD, or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com, and consider your home sold.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corbett. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. We offer several options of home sales, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers with time rush, you can agree to sell on a certain date, taking after your help on even ready.
That's great. The seller has a bit more time.
Use our approved marketing plan to sell to the highest price.
Work with my friend Blake Sloan and get your home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Market update, all kind of crazy stuff going on right now in the market. We'll talk about two types right now. We'll talk about the overall local market. We'll talk about what's happening with that. We'll also talk about what's happening nationally with some national news. One of the things that I mentioned earlier, a new Fox Business article came out. It talks about overall 2023 housing market projected to have the fewest sales since 2008 as mortgage rates rise. And it talks about mortgage applications just hit levels not seen since 1995. And that's crazy, right? So that's something we'll talk about. So right now, numbers are really super important. We'll talk about two main numbers. We'll talk about the closed deals, right? And thankfully on next week's show, we'll have the brand new numbers out from this month. They always happen in arrears. So for example, right now, we're finishing up October. We have September's numbers, right? Next week's show, we just finished October. We have October's numbers for you, which is super cool. But those are numbers that closed last month. The problem with that, if they closed last month, they went under contract 30 to 60 days prior. And so if they actually went under contract in July. making decisions with your largest asset, you don't want to use just that data because you're not going to make the best decision. So first piece of data we always use, I've been talking about this every week on the show because it's probably one of the most valuable. And it's shown most recently that buyer demand is off a cliff as rates have gone up. And so my prediction, you're going to see sales significant decline when next month's numbers come out, and you're going to see prices slowly dip a little bit in the next couple months as well. But those are called like the windshield numbers. I look out the front windshield of my car or my truck, and I can see what's happening ahead of me. I can make decisions in how I drive the car based on what I see in front of me. The rear view mirror numbers are the ones that everyone used, which is basically what closed last month. So I'll hit the windshield numbers first. Last 7 days, as of today, there's been 444 properties that went under contract in the entire Grand Strand. So that's anywhere from southern North Carolina, Brunswick County, all the way down past Georgetown, inland to like Dillon, Marion, all those areas, including Myrtle Beach as well. So 404. The crazy part, last week's show, 446, which is not too bad. The show before that, 527. The show before that, 537. And 5 weeks ago, 556. And so if you look at between 556 just 5 weeks ago and 444 now, that's a 20.14% drop just in the last 5 weeks. So a 20% drop in new buyers deals going under contract. It's pretty significant in that short of a time period, right? You're seeing, basically 1/5 drop in terms of what's going on in that scenario. And so that's interesting to look at. So if you look at the amount of volume, we always talked about previously, anytime you're at 200 million or more, you're smoking hot market, everything's doing great. Right now, we've seen that drop significantly. Right now, at $169,098,309. So basically, $169 million. Last week's show, 154, which is gone up a little bit, which is great. Show before that, 189. Show before that, 190. But 5 weeks ago, 214,128,000. So we went from 214 million to 169 million just in 5 weeks, which is a 21% drop as well. And so we saw a 20.14% drop in the amount of units that are being going under contract every 7-day period, and a 21% drop in the amount of volume. That just shows obviously a lot less buyers are buying as we've hit that threshold of around the 8% mark. And we saw that happen most recently. Thankfully, it did drop back down most this past week at the end of the week. Looking at high-end properties, you're still seeing a lot of high-end cash deals come in. In the last 7 days, 14 properties over $1 million went under contract. Last week, there was only 6 properties over $1 million. This past week, in this last 7 days, 76 properties over 500,000 versus 58 in last week's show over 500,000. So we've seen like a little recovery, which has been good. Active deals significantly up right now. So active listings for sale. So if you look at single family homes in Horry County, 942 properties active right now, which is good news. You go back to just a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, there's only 874 active properties. And so as you see that, properties are sitting there longer, taking a little bit longer to sell. Why is that? Because obviously there's 20% less buyers putting deals under contract. And so you want to make sure you do that. And here's the thing. Prices thankfully haven't dropped yet, which is good news. You're thinking about selling, you probably want to tee that up. And like I mentioned on previous shows, probably sell a little earlier than later because you want to make sure you can do that before we always know it's a supply and demand driven thing. So if demand goes down, right, supply stays the same, or obviously demand goes down and supply goes up, aka less properties are selling, you will see price soften. And so that's what we always see, but we see that as a lagging indicator, meaning it comes in 1, 2, 3 months after that. And so we'll probably see prices soften here the next few months. I know that because if you watch active listings, you're seeing significant amount of price reductions before properties getting sold. If I go back to 2008, then you want to do is follow the market down. We'd find out, we talked about this a lot last week in that mastermind I was at with agents, and some of us kind of reliving those war stories of like, what would happen was the market started shifting, and we'd tell our seller about it. The seller didn't believe us. They're like, oh, the market's not shifting. It's not down yet. And they wouldn't reduce the price. Well, then they wait another month later, and they finally start seeing that, hey, look, it's slowing down. It's not the agent, it's the market. And they'd finally reduce the price like 5%. Well, but the problem was by that time, the market's already down 5% more. And so they end up chasing it down. I don't think we're to that point yet, but that's something we'll see in the future and something to keep in mind. Or the last thing you want to do if you're thinking about selling anything, investment property, rental property, invest something you inherited, whatever it may be, looking to relocate, definitely want to do it sooner than later, especially looking at the seasonality here. It's still a very, very good time to sell, especially coming into the holidays, which is still, a month plus away. It's one of the most emotional times of the year for anybody. And guess which one the most emotional purchase anyone makes is their home. And so they always tend to visualize of some thousands of houses and visualize what the holidays look like in that house. It's a very, very good time to sell. And the buyers who do buy during that time are very, very serious. Looking really quick into the shifting gears to the market that closed, looking at last month's numbers that closed. And again, these that close when they're contracting around July. And so you want to make sure you keep that in mind. Sales down 13.2% for resale homes. Prices were up significantly. I do think we'll see that soften. So if you look at median price overall for September 2022 versus September 2023, up 6.7% at $368,700. The average sale price up 14.2% year versus year. Kind of a shocker there at $476,000. You are going to see that soften, I believe, as the data gets more updated to what's happening in real time. Because if you think back to July, right, the rates were a lot better. Like I mentioned, we saw a 20% drop here in new properties under contract just in the last 5 weeks. And these closed deals here aren't quite showing that yet. Months of supply, pretty low still, thankfully for homeowners. Right now, 3.1 months inventory. It's flat to where it was. Anything less than 6 months is a seller's market, meaning the seller has the advantage. That's great news still. If you're thinking about selling, that's why you're not seeing prices drop, because inventory is still so low. And the reason inventory is low, because so many people are sitting put, locked in at 2% interest rates, 3% interest rates, and they're not making any move, even though many of them may want to. And so that's helping keep, right, the supply low, even though demand has dropped, so supply is still low, which is helping to protect price. And so great news there overall. Into condos, you look at condo sales for overall closed sales in condos, down 7.2% last month overall. Median price, 0.9% increase, so pretty much flat year versus year at $237,000. Average sale price up 9.6% year versus year for condos at $286,992. I do think you will see that soften as well. Inventory has gone up a little bit for condos at 3.9 months, but it's still a super seller's market overall in terms of what you're seeing. That's something that's important. So if you look at overall, and this is something that's super important, this is why the agent you choose matters right now. If I go back to single family homes and you look at the amount of showings per listing, right now, the average showings per listing that a resale home's getting is 4 showings total. So, I mean, somebody lists their house could be 6 months, which is usually average. They got 4 showings in 6 months, which is not a whole lot. The problem with that is if you look at the data, the median amount of showings that it takes to get a property under contract is 9 showings. And so most of the homes in the market are getting less than half of what it takes to get a property under contract. And that's why the property is not selling. And here's the deal. That's why the agent you choose matters so much, because you want to understand the marketing they have. And that's what we do. I'm basically a marketing real estate business that gets you exposure. All I can do is get you more showings, right? And then at that point, we're able to negotiate once we have the buyers, because you want traffic in there. Here's a crazier number. If you look at average amount of showings it takes to get a property under contract, they call it showings depending. It takes 12.8 showings, which is up from last year significantly. And again, the average showings per listing right now, 4.0 showings per listing, and the average showings depending is 12.8. So you can probably see the problem. It takes about 3 times more the amount of showings to get a property under contract than what most listings are getting. And the reason is most agents aren't spending any money in marketing. The average agent sells 4 homes a year. So you list it with your friend just got their license. Guess what? They're just trying to pay their mortgage payment and survive right now. The last thing they're doing is spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in advertising like we are to get you the exposure that you need. And the cool part about us is we haven't dropped one single dollar in our marketing budget. We're still doubling down just like we said we would do, because our team hustles, we push hard, and I look forward to markets like this overall. So keep that in mind. Overall, if you think about selling, there's still a lot of stuff that is selling overall in terms of that. Like, for example, you go to closed sales last month, we still have 462 properties that closed. And so that's a lot of properties still getting moved. Really quick, I'll jump into the micro market and something we have here. I don't have a whole lot of time left, but I'm going to jump through and just show you Myrtle Beach closed sales last month, down 33% year over year. Prices year over year down 5.9% for median price. And so last year it was 502, 450. Right now 473. I tend to find that Myrtle Beach, the city of Myrtle Beach, tends to be the driver. They tend to experience things first. It's kind of like the hub. It's where everybody kind of uses to get the best data. And then everything else is kind of the shoulders that tend to follow that. Year to date, Myrtle Beach sales down 14.1%. Prices are still up 11.1%, but you did see a decline happen last month overall. North Myrtle Beach area, closed sales last month up 36%. Significantly, prices up 9.1%, still from 513 to 560. Year to date, though, North Myrtle Beach is down 9.1% in terms of sales. Prices down 1% right now at 528. 364. Little River area, sales down 33% last month. Prices down 5.6% last month, from 370 down to 350. That's a lot of equity. You start seeing the micro market, it really makes a difference, right? Based on which area you're in, which is going to really play into what you think your strategy is going to be if you're thinking about selling. Lowers and longs right now, sales down 11.7% last month. Also, prices down 1.6%, 303,570 last year to 298 right now. Conway, sales are flat at 0.7% increase, so pretty cool. Last September, there's 138 sales. This September, 139 sales. So right on target where it was. Prices up 1.2% from 299,450 to 303 this year. But as you see that, it's still pretty stagnant, right? We are seeing huge increases year over year. Now you're starting to see that kind of slow down as rates have gone up. Less buyers have bought. Carolina Forest, sales down 15.6% last month. Overall price down 3.4% year over year from 450 last year to 435 this year. That's equity loss for many owners right there who may have waited too long. And so if you're thinking about selling, right, you start to see this shift happening. I can feel it. I can see it. You see it in the micro market data. You definitely want to get that house to the market sooner than later. Do not wait until prices start to decline. A lot of buyers start seeing that, because then what happens? Fear kicks in and less buyers are going to buy. And I do think that we're still going to be long-term okay. I just think we're going to see a slight softening of price overall. Into Aner, sales down significantly, down 46%. But if you look at the numbers, it went from 15 sales last year to 8 sales this year. So not a big difference there overall. Prices down 5% year versus year. 291 last year, 276 this year. Soxy area, sales up significantly, up 23% from 100 last year to 123 this year. A lot of new construction in that area, as you can see, which has been really helpful. And new construction right now is super affordable. We've seen a lot of new construction houses kind of hurt values of resale because those builders have so much margin. They've been just dropping prices like crazy, offering crazy incentives, and a lot of buyers are buying there. And because they can buy a brand new house cheaper, they can buy a resale house that's 15, 20 years old right down the street in the next neighborhood. So interesting piece there. Prices Soxy, though, up 17.2%, which is awesome. Garden City, Murrells Inlet, sales down 21.6% from 74 last year to 58 this year in the month of September. Prices up 8.6%, which is great, from 437 to 474, 950. Last couple here, Pawleys Island, sales down last month 43%. So 37 in September of last year, 21 September of this year. Prices up significantly, though, and it's kind of skewed. So it's 475 last year, 800,000 this year. It shows a 68% increase in median sales price, but that's just because you're seeing a lot of different more high-end properties sell. They are spread out. That's something you want to break down neighborhood by neighborhood. Georgetown, sales up 93% from 16 last year to 31 this year. Again, that's just a small market that kind of can be skewed very easily. Prices, though, up significantly, up 65%. It shows from 206,000 last year to 342,500. And we're just seeing that in certain pockets, a lot of high-end properties, a lot of cash deals still we're very well dialed into up north, and a lot of cash properties are getting sold up there, bringing the cash down here and buying stuff with us overall in that scenario. And so one thing driving that is interest rates. Overall right now, thankfully, rates came down a little bit. They hit over 8% last week. Right now, they're at 7.87, which is good. It hit as high as 8.03 last week. That's just for just, the overall average people are seeing. Some are seeing rates in 9, 10%. A 15-year fixed rate, 7.3% right now. A 30-year jumbo loan, 8.0%. A 5-year adjust rate mortgage, 7.25%. And a 30-year FHA, 7.31%. And a 30-year VA loan right now is at 7.32% overall. And so that's just something interesting to think about overall with that. We got 1 minute left, Dave. Is that about right? Yeah, 1 minute. Okay, really quick. I just want to get off some success story. The overall thing, we have hot buyers. We have tons of buyers right now. Still looking, like I mentioned, I'm still spending $40,000, $50,000 a month driving traffic all over the place, bringing buyers in from across the country. Sellers and overall, if you're thinking about selling, reach out to us. We have 73,947 active home buyers from all across the globe still looking to buy here. Even though buyer traffic's gone down, we haven't dropped spending at all. We still have buyers looking to buy. And so if you want to get your property sold, you want somebody who can get you the exposure you need and get you the right price. Here's an example. Barbara and Ken owned a home in Myrtle Beach, recently decided to move back to New Jersey to be closer to children. They're getting older, want somebody to take care of them. And our big concern was timing. So they wanted to make sure they had plenty of time to move out. Thankfully, Barbara, a longtime listener to the show, called us. We generated our custom plan, Global Marketing Blitz, launched it, got 3 multiple offers in the first couple of days, drove the price up. They had a full price offer, and check it out. We got them negotiated for them to stay back in the house for 3 months after closing to be able to close their new house up there. So appreciate you guys. We'll be back here same time next week. BlakeSloan.com or 843-808-SOLD anytime.